In this Fortnite tutorial, I'll be showing you how to build a dragon like this. The first thing you want to do is grab the egg gallery and also monster skull small. You start off by placing the skull and then copy-pasting it so that you can move it on a different angle. You want to press rotate 3 times in order to have it pointing slightly downwards. The 3 colors that I'm going to use for this dragon hair will be regular green and reflective green and the golden one. The dragon skull is going to be used as a reference point for the head of the dragon. Then you're going to want to stretch out your eggs and use your eggs as the skin for the dragon. This is a very difficult part of the build because it's difficult to place the eggs where they're supposed to go. I recommend having flight speed 0.5% so that you can easily place them, grid snap off, and just try to do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. Another very useful tool here is copy-paste, because it doesn't have to be perfect, and if you make some mistakes and certain things ends up in a weird position, it kind of adds to the variety for the build and it makes it look a little more living. So use copy-paste as much as you can, because this build is going to take way too long if you place one by one. Remember that the face of the skull is much shorter than a real-life dragon, so what I do here is that I just elongate the skull a little bit so that it can have a longer face, more like a dragon. So I copy-paste the teeth, put them a little forward, and add some more skin. So far I've only been using the light green egg, and most of the build I'm actually going to be using the shiny green one, and it looks very reptilian looking, and when I make it a lot thinner it becomes very spiky and much more like aggressive dragon feeling. If you have too much round shapes on a dragon it looks a little too cloudy and nice and cute, and you don't really want that with a dragon. I'm going to be quiet now for a little while, because the building that I'm going to be doing now is pretty self-explanatory when you watch it. I'm going to be building the eyes, I'm going to be filling the whole thing with skin, I'm going to build a nose right here, and it's all pretty straightforward. It's difficult, but me standing here and saying words is not gonna make it any easier. If you want to skip to a different part of this video, I've added timestamps in the description so that you can jump to whatever. Now that we're done with the head, let's go on to the body, which will be part 2 of this build. Part 3 will be the wings. The difficult part of the body is that you don't have a reference point. You don't have a little, you know, giant skull that you can just use for the body, and that's why I just placed some stuff out just to have, you know, some testing. But I end up making a lot of changes to the size of the legs, the length of the body, the thickness, and all of that. You see here that I'm making a little bit of a body, and it has that gold egg as a stomach. The blocks that I'm using here are a lot bigger than for the head, and I don't feel like it's as important to make a detailed body as it was to make a detailed head. And it's also much easier to work with. I'm sure it would look a little bit better with a little bit smaller blocks here, but I decided not to do that because it would be too time consuming. You can see here that I'm copy-pasting one row of this body so that I can bend it, making sort of like an arch shape or whatever that, you know, real-life dragons often have with their neck, not just straight. And once you've done that, and once you figure out the actual scale of things, it's very easy to make the whole thing. Like with these shapes here, you can just make it round-ish. It doesn't need to be any perfect shape whatsoever. It will look good, like, no matter how you do it. The real challenge with the body is to make sure everything is the right size. This build here was actually very rushed because it was made in the finals of Chip's Summer Smash, which was a $2,000 competition. The theme for the final challenge was actually theme park, and I decided I was gonna make a dragon. I was gonna, you know, burn down a theme park. So I had to make both the dragon and the theme park in 10 hours, so therefore the dragon was a little rushed. That's why, for example, the body here, I went with bigger building pieces, and it worked out pretty nicely. With that being said, it still helps a lot to make the eggs thinner in the way that I've been doing it right here, and just having them right next to each other. It really adds to it. Possibly the most difficult part of the build will start right here, and that would be actually making the arms and the legs the correct size. I recommend searching the Google for some reference pictures to you know, see, you know, how wide the shoulder should be, and that's pretty wide, as you can see right here. That the shoulder starts up very wide, and then it will go thinner and thinner and thinner. I tried a lot and failed a lot. And since it's actually fairly easy to just make the arms this way, you can try and fail a lot, and that would be my recommended approach to this. You see here, for example, that I kind of failed a little bit with the length of the arm, that it got a little bit too long, but that was very easy to fix. You also want to take a little look at what angles the arms and legs usually are on dragons, because you obviously don't want them just hanging down or anything that looks, you know, unnatural. Now I'm going to make the hand, and for that I'm going to use some Pandora prop, I don't know, something, you know, a horn or whatever this is, and that's going to be the fingers or the nails or the claws. Yes, claw is the word. Also, I'm making this eggs here, you know, into the hand things. This I'm going to copy paste over to the other hands and legs as well. Now I figured out that I wanted to have the legs a little bit further back because they were a little too close to the front arms, so I just moved my little dot here to have a little idea for where I was gonna have it. When I made the front arm, I was actually very lucky because it got the right size in my first try. I wasn't as lucky when I got to the back leg thing and I ended up making it way too big. So, and I'm just cutting that out of this video. You don't really need to see that, I think. When you get to the back legs, you kind of want to make an S shape. It will start from the butt will be pretty big. It will obviously go thinner and thinner, but also if you just angle your head a little, you will sort of see what I mean with it being an S shape. And I'll say again, since it's so easy to just, you know, delete these blocks there, and it's really easy to just place them in the desired, you know, position to make kind of like a leg shape, you can always just try and fail. You know, I do this so much on this build here, and the leg got a little too short, so I made the leg a little longer, and that sort of stuff I did all the time with this build here. So I definitely recommend, if you decide to make some of the scales on the body a little smaller to make a little more detailed build, that you wait with doing that until you know that you have all the shapes right. If you pull up a Gaugle picture of a dragon again, you can see that the tail is very, you know, long, surprisingly long actually, and when it starts it's kind of as thick as the neck, but instead of continuing into a little head, it continues, but it's thinner and thinner and thinner the longer you go, until it's eventually just super thin, and then, you know, the end of the tail, you know. You can see now that I have actually started on the wings, but I'm putting the part where I made the wings a little bit later in the video, because I wanted to have part 2 be making the body and part 3 be making the dragon wings. So here we are at the wing making, and I'm using the eggs again in order to make the, what do you call it, long thin thing that the wings are hanging from. That should be kind of U-shaped. And this is another very difficult part of the build, because it's so hard to really see what you're doing. You can't really see the angle perfectly from where you're standing, and how long are you gonna have it. And also when you start copy pasting things, you'll very quickly get above the 100 limit. But eventually you can end up with some really cool wings. I'm really happy with how it turned out for me. But that was after a lot of trying and failing, and copy pasting and changing the positions of things. It takes a lot of that. I don't know exactly the name of these wing parts, but I'm just gonna call it fingers. I don't want them to be pointing towards the dragon, or I want them to point outwards, even though they're kind of like bending inwards. And you can see that I'm moving things that way so that they will be sticking out. In between the fingers, I'm actually using water. Water looks really nice, that it looks kind of thin and reflective. It's very difficult to place this perfectly, but you don't really have to place it perfectly either. It's again sort of, as long as you do your best, it's actually going to look really nice, even though some of the water might overlap a tiny bit weirdly. One thing that's a little difficult to do, but helps to make it look like it's you know, really a wing that's flying, is to sort of have a little bit of a arch shape to the water parts here, like I'm doing here. It goes up in the middle. That way it looks like it's filled with air, and that's, you know, this is keeping the dragon flying. You may notice that a lot of these corners for the water is sticking out, and when you're close to it like this, it definitely doesn't look perfect. But when you get further away, then you can't actually notice this, and it all just looks like it's all just one block. To give the dragon some fire breath, I'm using the meteor gallery and elongating it, making it super long so that it can, you know, look like it's breathing fire. On the ground, where I'm gonna have it hit the ground, it's gonna sort of be the same block, just a little shorter, so that it looks like it's kind of a little explosion. I'm gonna also make a trail of fire behind the explosion, so that, you know, it's a trail of fire. And that is it. That is this dragon fully completed. Like I was saying, this build was made in Chip's Summer Smash. It was in the finals. We had 10 hours to build a theme park. So what I decided to do was to make a dragon burning down a theme park. And in this little time-lapse thing here, I also showed that theme park. But the speed build for that is gonna come later. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was useful or entertaining or, you know, whatever.